Hi, my name's Peyton, and this is the first episode of my new sports podcast, SideLine Sports. Here, we're mainly going to talk about NBA, NFL, college football, and college basketball, with a little bit of MLB and NHL as we want. Our first episode today is going to be a little bit shorter as we test everything out, and we're going to focus on why Damian Lillard hasn't been traded yet, and what are some possible trades that could be made for him. The biggest reason Damian Lillard hasn't been traded yet is because of how publicly he has said that he only wants to play for the Miami Heat. This has really slowed down trade talks as any team not named the Heat doesn't want to ship away a ton of assets for an upset Lillard, and the Heat just don't have a good enough offer for the Blazers at this moment. The Blazers front office has also came out and said that they are in no rush to make the Lillard trade and will take as long as they need to get an offer they like. At this point, if Dame wants to be traded before the training camp, the Heat need to seriously strengthen their offer, or he needs to add some more teams to his list. No one wants to start the next season without this trade being done. Damian Lillard would be the topic of the biggest drama in the NBA. The Blazers would have to worry about this drama in trade talks while the games are getting started, and players and teams across the league will have these trade talks hovering over their heads as they try to get their season rolling. Anyway, when the Damian Lillard trade finally happens, we'll be sure to cover it, but as of now, here are 4 possible trades that could be made today for Dame. Now, the first trade we're going to talk about is a little bit crazy and is pretty unrealistic, but it's a massive 4-team trade that would send Dame to the 76ers with Harden going to the Clippers. In this trade, the Trailblazers would receive Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, and 2 future first-round picks from the Clippers, in addition to rookie Taylor Hendricks and Ochai Agbaji from the Utah Jazz. The 76ers would receive Damian Lillard and ship out Harden to the Clippers and Tyrese Maxey to the Jazz. The Clippers would also throw in Xavier Moon just to make the salaries work for the Jazz. Now, even though this trade is very unlikely, I find it as a win for all teams. First off, the Trailblazers are able to get rid of Damian Lillard, which is what he wants, and in exchange, they get 2 young first-round picks, one a second year, one a rookie, who can come in and fill in and create a great young core around their first-round pick this year, Scoot Henderson, who I personally believe will be the best rookie in this class over Wembanyama. They also will get 2 first-round picks that they can stash for later, and Norman Powell and Marcus Morris, who were included just to make the salaries work. But Norman Powell is on a 3-year deal, so if the Blazers want, they can keep him around, and he could be a valuable bench asset as the Blazers continue to rebuild over the next few seasons. Next, the 76ers are able to get Damian Lillard in exchange for Harden and Tyrese Maxey. They may have to throw in another first-round pick to either the Jazz or the Clippers or the Trailblazers, depending on what these teams want, but most likely they wouldn't have to. Damian Lillard would come in and be a starter, and him and Embiid would be one of the strongest duos in the NBA, but they would be losing Maxey, who's been a great third option with them the last few seasons. The Clippers would then get James Harden for just Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, and 2 firsts. I feel like that's fair value for James Harden, but the Clippers will be losing a lot of their depth and will have to rely on their star power for this next year. Then the last team involved in this trade would be the Utah Jazz. They were added to help provide the Trailblazers with enough value to send Dame away, and in exchange they would be getting Tyrese Maxey and Xavier Moon. This would be quite a risky trade for the Jazz as they're giving up 2 of their younger pieces in exchange for Tyrese Maxey, who would be a strong guard to play aside Lauri Markkanen in this upcoming season. I feel like this is a very agreeable trade for the 4 teams as it turns the 76ers and Clippers into title contenders. It puts the Jazz in a position to make the playoffs next year, and it sets up the Trailblazers to begin their rebuild next year with a young core around their new star rookie Scoot. Now we're going to explore what the Heat could offer in a trade to gain Damian Lillard, as this is the spot he wants to go. The Heat would definitely have to give up Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson just to make the salaries work. In addition to those 2, they could throw in Nikola Jovic, and then at least 3 or 4 future first-round draft picks. Now, I'm assuming that the Heat have made an offer very similar to this, and the Blazers still haven't accepted. I think this is due to the fact that the Blazers don't want to have a long, drawn-out rebuild built through many first-round picks and years through the draft. I think they want to acquire young assets for Dame instead of just picks. And yes, Harrow is a young asset, but he's not a strong enough player to be able to take you to the next level. And if the Trailblazers do want more, there's not much else that the Heat can offer besides picks. The Heat don't have a ton of young assets on their team, so if they were to throw in a bunch of first-round picks, they'd essentially be getting rid of their entire future for the next 5 to 7 years to try to make a finals run with a 33-year-old Jimmy and a 33-year-old Dame, who in the next few seasons could very likely be out of their primes. So either way, it's a risky trade for both sides, as the Blazers might not get the value they want, or the Heat would have to give up a lot of their future for a 33-year-old. Now, the next trade is probably one of my favorites, and it involves sending Dame to the Spurs to team up with Wembanyama. The reason I like this trade so much is I feel like the Spurs have one of the better offers for Dame, and that pairing him up with Wembanyama could be a great move for the Spurs to try and reach the playoffs. This trade involves sending away Keldon Johnson, Doug McDermott, and Zach Collins, along with 4 future first-round picks in exchange for Dame. Now, the difference between the picks in this trade for the Spurs compared to the Heat is because they would only have to give up 2 picks from 2024 and 2 picks from 2025 due to all the trades they've made, resulting in gained picks for them. This would only cause their short-term future to be slightly at risk, but they would be having Wembanyama and Damian Lillard on the same team, so it's not a big issue. And this is a plus for the Trailblazers because they're getting picks in the future, so their rebuild process won't be as drawn out as it would be with the Heat, as those picks would come over many years. And another positive of this trade on the Spurs end would be if this hypothetical Dame and Wembanyama pairing was to fail, they would still have many picks in the following years after this experiment, so their rebuild wouldn't go to shambles. I also think that just overall, a Wembanyama and Dame pairing would be very entertaining for this next season. This way, Wembanyama would have some pressure off of him being able to play with a star player his rookie year, and we would be able to get to see Wembanyama in a light where he could potentially make the playoffs his first year as a rookie. Now, the final trade for this episode would involve sending Dame to the Nets for a package revolving around Ben Simmons, one of the Nets' younger pieces such as Dariq Whitehead or Cam Thomas, and a bunch of the first-round picks they've gathered through the Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving trades. Now, on the Blazers' end, this would mean that they're committing to a lengthy, drawn-out rebuild process, kind of like what OKC did, with just gathering as many first-round picks as possible, which has started to work for OKC, so maybe the Blazers are open to this option. But on the Nets' end, this would give them a starting 5 of Dame, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Nick Claxton, which would be one of the stronger starting 5s in the Eastern Conference. And with the 4 picks obtained in the Kevin Durant trade, the Nets would essentially just be re-giving those picks back to the Trailblazers, meaning they traded away Kevin Durant for Damian Lillard, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Johnson, which is definitely a win. The only reason I could see the Nets not wanting to do this trade is their last experiment with a big star player didn't go so well with Kyrie, KD, and Harden, so maybe they're not ready to jump right back into getting another star player, but also this could make their team one of the top contenders in the East, so I think it would be a smart move for them to do. Now, there are some other teams interested in trading for Dame, such as the Clippers, Knicks, or Raptors, but I didn't include a mock trade for them in an analysis because I think Dame heading to one of these teams is very unlikely. The most likely of these 3 teams would be the Clippers, but they would have to do a similar multi-team deal as the 76ers would have had to do. So maybe the Clippers could get in on Dame, but other than that, I don't really see it happening. And that's going to be it today for the first episode of SideLine Sports. I hope you learned a little bit more about the Damian Lillard trade situation and heard some interesting trades that might make you think of some of your own. In the future, we're going to try and make the episodes a little bit more longer, but as this was our first test, it was a little bit on the shorter side. We're going to try to get 1 to 2 episodes out a week. If you have any feedback, please feel free to leave it in the comments, as I would love to hear back from what you guys have to hear. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and make sure to catch the next episode later on this week.